Hi. I want to do a professional development for my colleagues at T.G. Smith Elementary to let you know what I've learned about classroom environment and how it relates to educating students with hearing loss. So I'm doing this meeting and I'm getting ready to share my screen with you, and so you can read along with me. Okay, this is for T.G. Smith Elementary Deaf Education, how to support students learning to listen and speak in the classroom. This professional development is related to teaching students that have hearing technology, such as cochlear implants or hearing aids, and how we as educators can support them and get the best educational outcome for these students. Hearing loss. How does hearing loss impact a student's understanding of language and speech? Babies normally learn language through months of listening to talking, singing, and cooing. Um, that's how they begin to connect meaning to language. So when parents repeat back to them what they're saying, the sounds they make, it just helps them learn to take turns in language. And when they see the emotion in a person's face when they speak certain tones or certain words, they can learn the importance of those words as they stand in the language. They hear lots of inflections, the repetitions, a variety of speech patterns, and they pair that with the emotions and their experiences, and they see the expression and tone that connects to language, and that's how they learn. That's how they learn a language. A lot of learning of language is unintentional learning. The function of hearing in the understanding of speech is while the baby is listening and starting to comprehend the meaning of speech, he or she is also playing with the sounds of her own voice. They learn to take turns while communicating with caregivers who repeat vocalizations back to them. And they get lots of practice matching the sounds heard with the sounds their own voice makes. Over the first several years, all the listening and the practice that they get results in the ability to understand language and say words and make sentences. And it even helps them get new ideas, inform their own opinions, and even develop a sense of humor. Okay, how does hearing loss impact a student's social development? Hearing loss in a child can lead to delayed speech and language skills. It can lead to learning problems in school, feeling bad about himself, and they might even have trouble making friends. Most likely they will, because hearing loss causes trouble with speaking. Um, it causes them to have less success in school, a harder time learning to read, and delayed social skills. Hearing loss can make it harder to talk with other people. Children might not even want to talk with or play with other children because of their hearing loss. Their speech may be abnormally loud or abnormally soft because they just don't experience sound in the same way, and they can't hear how loud or how softly they're talking. A child with hearing loss might possibly feel isolated because they don't have as many friends. They may be unhappy at school, which can hurt their performance at school. Children with hearing loss can be anywhere from 1 to 4 grade levels behind because of the delayed language and social development. Hearing technology is available for children and adults with hearing loss. And we do have students at our school that have hearing technology, and there are ways you can promote their language development in the classroom and help them in their goal to listen and speak. One of the most important ways we can help the students be successful in the classroom is to perform daily listening checks using the hearing technology. This is a responsibility that we carry in the deaf education classroom. Each day we perform a 6-sound listening check, the Ling 6-sound listening check. All the technology, whether it's hearing aids or cochlear implants, they should be checked for possible malfunction or battery replacement, and this should be done each day in the morning or as needed throughout the day if a problem is suspected. When we do this, we can be sure that the technology is performing properly, and we increase the effectiveness of our teaching by checking to make sure they're getting the best possible function from their hearing device. Checking the technology every day also helps the student develop a sense of importance and eventually take on the responsibility themselves to monitor the quality of his or her own hearing. The goal is that the student, will learn to self-check and report the problem of in their hearing device at any point during the day that they might be having a problem. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what happens in the classroom and how what a teacher does, either in the general education setting or in the deaf education setting, what can be done to support students with hearing loss. One thing you need to know and understand is that a child's oral and speaking success is dependent on consistent and meaningful access to sound, especially speech. As I said before, all technology should be checked for possible malfunction or battery replacement daily. Many students who listen with a hearing aid or cochlear implant also use an FM system. At this time, we do not have an FM system in use at T.G. Smith Elementary, but hopefully in the near future we will have that for our students. This is a system that where the speaker, the teacher, would wear a monitor that connects directly to the technology the student is wearing, and it helps accentuate the voice of the teacher. So it's easier for the student to differentiate what they should be listening to and what may be less important background noise in the room. When you're thinking about the technology, if there are problems with the technology that maybe are beyond the understanding of the teacher, and I've had this happen to me this year where the technology wasn't working, the best thing to do is to contact the audiologist that serves the school, the parents, and let them contact the manufacturer of the device to maybe send it away for repair. Okay, when it comes to effective teaching style and what might help the student have better access to what you're trying to teach in the classroom, there are some things that will help the student in their understanding. One thing you can do is provide a context for clarification. Some words can mean different things in different contexts, like the word make, for instance, or the word can. You know, a can might mean a can of soda, or it might mean a can is the ability to do something. And for a student with hearing loss that can't hear that word used in language on a regular basis, it might be hard for them to differentiate which meaning of that word you're referring to. So providing a context to clarify the meaning is good. Also, if there is background noise, there's a new sound, that most students might be able to identify easily. Sometimes it helps the deaf student to actually draw attention to that sound and show them where the sound is coming from, so they can understand that it's not a sound they need to focus on. Another good thing you can do is repeat what you've said. Repetition is really a good thing to do with all students. Many of us learn through repetition, but for a student with hearing loss, it is very important. Another thing is providing activities related to the lesson, things that are more tangible and hands-on that can help clarify understanding for the student, helps them gain a greater level of comprehension. Also providing opportunities to practice the vocabulary related to the lesson. Once they've learned the vocabulary, to actually have them use it in a sentence, use it in methods, to try out the new vocabulary they've learned in context, to give them experience, connection with that word. Also, a teacher can model good listening behavior with their students. This helps both the hearing student with hearing loss and the hearing students. And last on this slide, I've got provide important concepts and vocabulary prior to teaching. Introducing the student to the topics to be covered, the context that's going to be spoken in, helps them kind of prepare their thinking to receive your instruction. So that's a very effective way to help the student in their education. Okay, here are a few important reminders. Students with hearing loss have a particularly difficult time determining where the speaker is in a group. When a discussion begins, the speaker should be identified. It's a good idea to use a visual cue to identify who is speaking, such as a talking stick. So especially if you're having a classroom discussion, that helps the student with hearing loss identify who is speaking. If you pass the baton as you speak, they can follow along a little more easily. An important reminder also is the need for a student with hearing loss to be able to look at the speaker's face. The teacher should avoid turning their back or obstructing the child's view during your instruction. They need to be able to see your face. And that's one reason that a lot of IEPs recommend preferential seating for students, so they're seated as close to the teacher as possible. If a student cannot see your face, it's an important reminder to you that if they are taking notes, they can't see your face. So if you have the students taking notes while you're talking, they're not going to be able to understand what you're saying, because they cannot write and look at their paper and look at you at the same time. So it's a good idea to avoid note-taking by possibly providing a handout to the child who has hearing loss that has the teaching points and learning objectives already listed, so they don't have to take notes during instruction. Visual supports are very important for students with hearing loss. It would be a good idea to use demonstrations, outlines, writing important words or phrases on the board, using handouts and manipulatives to strengthen understanding of new concepts. Again, you should avoid forcing the student to share attention between your face and the visual support, such as having them looking at a chart while you're explaining the chart. They can't look at the chart and listen to you at the same time, because they need to look at you to hear you. When visual supports are used, be sure to continue to reinforce the auditory component by repeating the keyword or phrase to reinforce the auditory learning. Students with hearing loss do not always follow the change of topics within a discussion as easily as hearing students. It helps to provide a short summary of what's been discussed and then make a clear transition to the next topic. Students with hearing loss may require additional processing time. As a teacher, you should allow them sufficient time to respond before you repeat or rephrase your question. And also, it's important to note many hearing people do not realize how difficult it is and the concentration that's necessary to really focus on someone visually to get the information when it doesn't come in as easily through your ears. So students with hearing loss do experience fatigue just from focusing so intently on the speaker to get the information they're trying to learn. One thing that might help with this is just providing frequent breaks for those students. Other factors that impact learning in deaf education: you should be aware of the lighting in the classroom. It's difficult for a student to speech read if the speaker is standing directly in front of a sunny window or a bright light. So placing the student with their back against the window is sometimes an easy way to correct this problem. Background noise is also a problem. Even if it's not noticeable to hearing students, it can be a significant obstacle to the student with a hearing loss to getting the information through communication. Okay, as a teacher, you can also create a positive educational environment by providing preferential seating to our students who have hearing loss. Students should be seated as close as possible to the teacher, away from other noise sources such as ventilations or heating units, a printer, maybe a class pet that makes a sound, a chirping or a squeaking sound. They should be seated away from the door. This is not only for distractions through noise, but also visual distractions. And they should not be seated close to a sink or a bathroom. Really, all in all, they just need to be seated in the quietest possible area of the classroom where they can have a clear view of the speaker. Okay, let's talk a little bit about classroom acoustics. One goal is that our classrooms are more quieter, so a student with hearing loss can hear what he should be hearing, what he needs to hear. Some ways to help with that is to place rugs or carpet in the room that absorbs a lot of the background noise. Also, you can hang curtains or blinds on the windows. Hanging a soft material such as felt or cork on the walls helps with acoustics, keeps the room quieter. And also on the bottoms of chairs or tables, you might put soft tips or felt on the bottom of the chairs so you don't have the scooting of the chair noise on the floor. If you do have equipment that's noisy, such as light fixtures or ceiling fans, you can turn those off when the student's there in the room. Keep windows and doors closed when possible, and also talk to the other students about noise levels and how it affects learning in the classroom. Okay, here are a few do's and don'ts about working with students with hearing loss. Do maintain learning expectations. Don't restrict the child's listening development by having low expectations. So although you need to be aware of their ability, keep your expectations in line with that ability and help encourage them to reach a little higher. Also, expect the student to use his or her voice in communication to the best of their ability. One of the best ways to improve speech is by speaking, and they'll gain confidence in that the more they do it. Don't hesitate to ask questions about cochlear implant technology and pediatric rehabilitation. And do commit to making changes to the environment or classroom as much as possible to minimize background noise or any other interfering noise. When in doubt, you can ask your deaf educator in your building. And And also, when dealing with parents and family, uh, there is some bias surrounding hearing loss and hearing technology. And I think one important thing to remember is that that you should keep your information clear and unbiased, and opinions should be expressed only in the context of current and accurate information. Okay, I've had this slide as working as a team. There are several stakeholders involved when you're working with a student with hearing loss, and I think one of the best ways to maximize their potential is to work together as a team um, with open and clear communication. So I would encourage you to share your email addresses and your phone numbers. Um, Maybe schedule a weekly opportunity to communicate as a team. Ask and answer questions freely among your team regarding lesson plans and objectives and any type of classroom modification. Or accommodation for the student. Thank you. I appreciate you going through this with me. I hope you will come if you have any questions. Let's make this year awesome for our students with hearing loss. Well, don't know how to do this.